3 birth charts, 3 lives, 1 planet Earth, and 1 question that no textbook answers cleanly. Where on this planet does a soul's blueprint actually fire? I'm your host, and for the next 45 minutes we're doing something this platform has never done. We're building a complete locational portfolio from 3 real charts, computed against the actual JPL ephemeris. And I'm handing you 4 original techniques, not to copy, to run. By the end, you will never look at a world map the same way again. Because the map is not geography. The map is biography. Stay with me. Here is the ground rule of this whole session. Everything you're about to see was calculated, not invented. The planetary longitudes, the relocated angles, the crossing points. Every number comes from the same ephemeris NASA uses for deep space navigation. That matters, because locational astrology lives or dies on precision. A 1-minute error in birth time moves your midheaven line by roughly 1/4 of a degree on the globe. That is about 15 miles on the ground. So when I show you a number, it's not decoration. It's data. And before we draw a single line, let me define the epistemology, because it shapes everything. Locational astrology is not prediction. It is a what-if machine. It asks, given this exact sky at this exact moment, what would the angles of the chart be at any other point on Earth? The answer is always true. In the astronomical sense, the angles are geometric facts. The interpretive layer, what a Saturn line means for your career, is a hypothesis about resonance. Keep the facts and the hypotheses in separate boxes. The facts you can compute. The hypotheses you can test. That distinction is the entire spine of this session. Chapter 1. The Geometry of Place. In 1976, an American astrologer named Jim Lewis released something the astrological world had never seen. A world map covered in curved lines, each one labeled with a planet and an angle. He called it astrocartography, and it became the most copied idea in modern astrology. But the technique behind it is older than the map. It's the oldest question in the craft. What would this chart look like if it had been cast somewhere else? Lewis' stroke of genius was to answer that question for every place at once. Take any planet in your birth chart. The Earth rotates, so that planet is rising somewhere, culminating somewhere, setting somewhere, and at its lowest point somewhere else, at every single moment. The 4 lines on your map are simply the 4 answers to that question, drawn as great circles around the planet. The ascendant line, where the planet was rising. The descendant line, where it was setting. The midheaven line, where it reached the zenith. And the IC line, where it hit the nadir. And here is the mathematics underneath the map, because you deserve the machinery, not just the metaphor. The midheaven of any place is the point of the ecliptic that happens to be crossing the local meridian at your birth moment. Its right ascension is the local sidereal time. And local sidereal time is simply your Greenwich sidereal time plus your longitude. So the MC line of a planet is the set of longitudes where its right ascension equals your birth time sidereal time, adjusted east or west. The ascendant line is a little more beautiful. The ascendant is the point of the ecliptic rising over the eastern horizon, and the horizon is tilted, relative to the celestial equator, by your geographic latitude. So the formula must fold in the obliquity of the ecliptic and the latitude of the ground beneath your feet. Ascendant longitude is the arctangent of cosine RAMC over negative the quantity sine obliquity times tangent latitude, plus cosine obliquity times sine RAMC. When you see that equation, you are literally watching a horizon tilt a zodiac. And the other 2 lines are the quiet twins of the map. The descendant line is simply the ascendant line plus 180 degrees of ecliptic longitude. Wherever a planet sets, its opposite point rises, so the descendant line runs exactly opposite the ascendant line on the globe. The IC line is the midheaven line's mirror, the planet at its nadir, the lowest point of its daily arc, which in the chart lands exactly opposite the midheaven. 4 lines, 2 mirror pairs. Every planet in your chart contributes exactly 4 answers to the question, where on Earth was I angular at the moment I was born? Now here is the distinction that separates the serious from the tourist. Astrocartography lines are longitude lines. They run north and south, and they tell you where a planet was angular at birth. But there is a second family of lines that almost nobody masters: local space lines. Those are not about birth at all. They are about direction. A local space line is the great circle that runs from your birthplace toward the azimuth, the compass bearing, where a planet actually stood on the horizon at your birth moment. The ascendant is the eastern horizon point. The MC is due south on that same circle. Think of it this way. Astrocartography asks, where on Earth was the planet on the angle? Local space asks, which direction did that planet occupy, as seen from your own doorstep? The first is about places you can stand. The second is about vectors you can face. Michael Earlywine mapped these lines in the 1970s, and together the two systems give you a complete coordinate picture. One answers longitude, the other answers azimuth. One tells you where to live, the other tells you which way to point. And then there is the hidden layer of the map, the paran. A paran is not a line. It is an intersection. It occurs at the latitude where two of your planets are angular at the same moment, one rising, for example, while the other culminates. The map's crossing points are not chaos, they are a second, quieter alphabet. Most astrologers read the lines. The serious ones read the crossings. And before we build the original systems of this session, you need the final tool, the relocation chart. Take your birth moment, recast the angles for a new latitude and longitude, and you get a chart that shows what your life would have looked like in that place. Let me show you the azimuth table behind local space, because it's the most underused table in all of astrology. For each planet in your birth chart, compute the planet's altitude and azimuth at your birthplace at the birth moment. The azimuth is the compass bearing. North is 0, east is 90, south is 180, west is 270. A planet on the ascendant has an azimuth of 90 degrees, due east. A planet on the midheaven has an azimuth of 180, due south. A planet on the descendant faces due west. Every other planet points somewhere in between. Now draw a straight great circle line from your birthplace in that exact direction, and that line is the planet's local space line, running to the antipode and back. That is why local space maps look like spokes of a wheel radiating from your birthplace. Because that is exactly what they are. A compass rose, frozen at the moment of your birth. One caution before the portfolio. Every line is surrounded by an orb of influence. Practitioners typically use about 700 miles, though the honest answer is that the intensity decays with distance and with the planet's own nature. A line is not a wire carrying electricity. It is a resonance gradient. The closer you get, the louder the signal. And the louder the signal, the more it blends with the natal chart that carries it. Keep that in mind, because our first portfolio chart is about to show you what a loud signal actually looks like. There is a genuine debate about the orb, and you deserve to know it. The 700-mile figure comes from Jim Lewis' own practice, a pragmatic teaching number, not a law of physics. Some schools read lines as active within 150 miles. Others treat the entire hemisphere between two lines as a single blended zone. My own protocol is a compromise that respects the mathematics. The line is sharpest within about 2 degrees of latitude, roughly 140 miles, and the signal decays in a curve, not a cliff, out to several hundred miles. And one more refinement. The orb is tighter for the midheaven line than for the ascendant line, because the meridian is a cleaner geometric object than the horizon. Precision is not pedantry. Precision is respect for the map. Chapter 2. Portfolio A. I call this chart the cartographer. A founder, born May 15, 1976, at 12:34 in the afternoon, in San Francisco. I computed this chart on the full DE 421 ephemeris, and what jumped off the page is a Taurus stellium so tight it's almost architectural. The Sun at 24.5 degrees, Venus at 15 1/3, Jupiter at 11.8, all in Taurus, the sign of the builder. The Moon in Sagittarius, the midheaven in Libra, and the ascendant in Sagittarius at 25 degrees. Now watch what relocation does to this chart. When we move the cartographer to Lagos, Nigeria, same birth instant, new horizon. The midheaven slides into Aquarius at 17.5 degrees, and the ascendant lands on Taurus at 24.5. Do you see what just happened? The entire Taurus stellium, Sun, Venus, Jupiter, has become the rising sign. In Lagos, this person doesn't just have a Taurus stellium in the background of the chart. In Lagos, the stellium is the mask. It's the face the world meets at the door. And the signature gets sharper. The midheaven in Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn sits in the 7th house region of the birth chart, in Cancer, at 28 degrees, in the descendant sector. An Aquarius midheaven puts Saturn's themes, structure, longevity, institutional power, directly on the public meridian. This is the chart of someone who in Lagos doesn't just build, they institutionalize. They found structures that outlive them. Now look at the other two lines of the cartographer's Lagos relocation, because the story deepens. The descendant in Lagos sits at 24.5 degrees Scorpio, and the IC at 17.5 Aquarius. The IC is the root of the chart, the foundation, the home. An Aquarius IC means the home itself becomes a laboratory, unconventional, forward-looking, built on networks rather than bloodlines. And a Scorpio descendant puts the partnership axis on the most intense sign of the zodiac. Relationships in Lagos are not casual. They are transformative, contractual, and all or nothing. The cartographer in Lagos builds institutions by day, runs a laboratory at home, and experiences partnership as the crucible. That is not 3 different readings. That is one relocation chart, read with all 4 angles. But the map has more to say. Look at the MC lines for the cartographer's own planets. The Sun's MC line crosses the globe at 95.6 degrees east, the Bay of Bengal, Bangladesh, the spine of Southeast Asia. Jupiter's line at 82.8 east, Kazakhstan, the roof of the world. Venus at 86.3. And then the 2 hardest lines, Saturn at 163.6 east, and Mars at 164.9, running almost parallel through eastern Siberia. That is the founder's dilemma written in longitude: expansion in the west of Asia, confrontation in the east. Here's where the map stops being pretty and starts being surgical. The crossing point calculation for this chart finds a true parent where Venus is on the midheaven while Mars is rising. The math solves to longitude 86.3 east, latitude 28.2 south. That's the Indian Ocean off the western coast of Australia. At that one point, the map's 2 most creative and most combative energies are angular simultaneously. Venus culminating, Mars ascending, beauty and aggression sharing the same horizon. So what does the cartographer actually do with all of this? The relocation story writes itself in 3 acts. San Francisco, the birthplace, where the stellium sits in the background and the Sagittarius ascendant paints the founder as a teacher and a seeker. Lagos, where the stellium takes the stage and the founder becomes a builder of institutions. And New York, where the relocation midheaven lands in Sagittarius at 4.6 degrees, and Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, who happens to be conjunct the natal sun in Taurus. In New York, the career line touches the identity line. The work becomes the self. And the moon line of the cartographer deserves its own paragraph. The moon in Sagittarius at 13.8 degrees. Its midheaven line crosses the globe near longitude 241 east, running through the western Pacific. That is the emotional line of the map. Not career, not identity, but the places where the inner weather clears. For the cartographer, the Pacific corridor is the nervous system of the chart, the region where the seeker's moon can finally rest. A complete reading never stops at the career lines. It maps the emotional lines too, because a life is not a career with a body attached. A life is a body that needs a harbor. That is the first lesson of the portfolio. A relocation chart is not a different person. It is the same person, with different furniture in the front room. The natal chart is the blueprint. The relocation chart is the lighting. And in this chart, the lighting changes the entire emotional temperature of the life. From philosopher in San Francisco, to patriarch in Lagos, to public figure in New York. Same soul, 3 different spotlights. Write this down, because it is the operating principle of the whole session. The natal chart owns the planets. the relocation chart owns the angles, and the map owns the geography. The natal chart never changes, it is the contract. The relocation chart changes with every horizon, it is the lighting design. And the map shows you every possible lighting design at once. When you understand the three-layer stack, you stop asking which place is best, and start asking which version of the contract each place is willing to stage. Chapter 3. Portfolio BI. Call this one the Navigator. Born November 2, 1988, at 6:21 in the morning, in London. And this chart opens with a confession written in the sky. The Sun at 10.1 degrees of Scorpio, in exact conjunction with Pluto at 12.4. Sun conjunct Pluto in Scorpio is the signature of a person whose inner life is a furnace, relentless transformation, a compulsion to descend, to excavate, to be reborn. And the Moon at 19.3 Leo, opposite Neptune in Capricorn, means the emotional life dreams in epic scope while reality keeps the books. Add the second structure and the chart gets genuinely rare. Saturn at 29 degrees Sagittarius, in exact conjunction with Uranus at 28.4. The Saturn-Uranus conjunction is the signature of a generation, 1988 to 89. Born at the hinge of the old order and the new. In the Navigator's chart, it sits at the very end of Sagittarius, the anaretic degree, the degree of completion and crisis. This person was born with a mandate: dismantle inherited structures, then build new ones. The natal midheaven at 14.4 Leo, the ascendant at 2.9 Scorpio, right on top of the Sun-Pluto conjunction. Now relocate the Navigator to New York. Same instant, new horizon. The midheaven becomes Gemini at 5 degrees. The ascendant becomes Virgo at 8.7. And here's the poetry. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and natal Mercury sits at 23.4 Libra in the 10th house sector, the house of career. So in New York, the career axis points straight at Mercury, communication, writing, media, negotiation. The Navigator in New York is not the furnace of London. The Navigator in New York is the voice. But there is a quiet planet in the Navigator's New York chart that changes the whole portrait: Neptune. The relocated IC sits at 5 degrees Sagittarius, and natal Neptune sits at 7.9 Capricorn, within 3 degrees of the root of the chart. An IC-Neptune contact is the underground river, the home life, the private life, the foundation itself, dissolved and reimagined. So the Navigator in New York is not just a voice. The Navigator in New York lives on an underground river, public Mercury above, private Neptune below. That is the signature of an artist who works in the open but lives in the deep. Now take the Navigator to Tokyo. The midheaven lands on Capricorn at 6.1 degrees. The ascendant lands on Aries at 10.5. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and natal Saturn is conjunct Uranus in Sagittarius. So in Tokyo, the career axis activates the dismantler, restructuring, technology, breaking old systems open. And the ascendant in Aries, the first sign, the sign of the pioneer, activates Mars, which sits at 0 degrees Aries in the birth chart. 0 degrees Aries is the Aries point itself, the threshold of the zodiac. In Tokyo, the Navigator literally rises on the world's leading edge. And the Tokyo descendant completes the story. The ascendant at 10.5 Aries puts the descendant at 10.5 Libra, and natal Venus sits at 3.9 Libra, with Mercury at 23.4 Libra in the same sign. The partnership axis in Tokyo lands directly in Venus's territory. So the Navigator in Tokyo does not just pioneer alone. The Navigator in Tokyo is met by partners, collaborators, mirrors, on the Venus axis. The furnace meets its match. The dismantler finds its alliance. Every angle of the Tokyo chart is a different organ of the same body, and together they tell one story. The Navigator in Tokyo is the leading edge that never stands alone. Now the crossing points for this chart are spectacular, and I computed them by solving the Perrin equations directly. First, Jupiter on the midheaven while the Moon rises. The solution lands at longitude 284.7 east, latitude 32.9 south. That is the South Pacific, off the east coast of New Zealand. Jupiter culminating, Moon ascending. The place where expansion and emotional belonging become one horizon. The navigator's map says, New Zealand is not a vacation. New Zealand is a homecoming. Second crossing. Mars on the midheaven while Saturn rises. The solution. Longitude 223.0 east, latitude 2.5 south. That is Indonesia, the island corridor between the oceans. Mars culminating, Saturn ascending. The place where disciplined action becomes destiny. Now here is the dark beauty of the navigator's map. The natal Saturn-Uranus conjunction means every Saturn line is also a Uranus line. Every structure the navigator touches is simultaneously a revolution. That is exhausting in London. It is genius in the right coordinates. The navigator's portfolio teaches the second lesson of this session. A relocation chart does not fix a natal chart. It distributes it. The navigator's Sun-Pluto furnace cannot be turned off by moving to New York. But New York gives that furnace a microphone, Tokyo gives it a scalpel, and the South Pacific gives it a harbor. Same fire, different forge. The art of locational astrology is not finding the one perfect place. It is understanding which version of yourself each place agrees to host. Chapter 4. Portfolio. I call this chart the Bridge Builder. Born March 21, 1994, at 23:02, in Accra, Ghana, 3 degrees from the equator. And the first thing the ephemeris tells us is that this chart was born on the Aries point. The Sun at 1.1 degrees of Aries, the very threshold of the zodiac, the degree of global initiation. Add Venus at 16.6 Aries, Mars at 11.4 Pisces in exact conjunction with Saturn at 6.2 Pisces, and a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction in Scorpio at 13.9 and 28 degrees. This is the chart of a person who crosses thresholds for a living. The natal midheaven is Virgo at 13.2. The ascendant is Sagittarius at 13.6. And here is where this chart becomes a masterclass in the geometry of place. Accra sits at longitude 0.187 west. London sits at 0.128 west. They are on the same meridian, the prime meridian. So when we relocate the Bridge Builder to London, the midheaven barely moves. 13.3 Virgo, virtually identical to the natal MC. The career meridian is fixed. The Bridge Builder carries their professional axis with them like a spine. But look at the ascendant. In London it becomes Scorpio at 22.4 degrees, in Paris, Scorpio at 25.9. And Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and natal Pluto sits in Scorpio at 28 degrees, with Jupiter at 13.9 in the same sign. In London and Paris, the ascendant slides toward the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. The Bridge Builder's public identity becomes, quite literally, the Jupiter-Pluto story. Power through alliance, transformation through connection, influence through depth. Now the IC of the Bridge Builder's European relocations. The natal IC sits at 12.2 degrees Pisces, and natal Mars at 11.4 Pisces with Saturn at 6.2 Pisces, the Mars-Saturn conjunction right on the root of the chart. In London and Paris, the IC barely moves, 13 to 14 Pisces, so the Mars-Saturn conjunction stays pinned to the foundation. What does that mean in practice? The Bridge Builder's private life is a workshop. The home is where the hard craft happens, the discipline, the repairs, the slow Saturnine work that no audience ever sees. The Scorpio ascendant is the public face. The Pisces IC is the forge. Europe gives this chart a stage and a workshop in equal measure. Now the map lines for this chart tell an equatorial story. The Sun's MC line crosses at 196.3 east, the South Pacific. Saturn's line at 173.3 east, Mars at 178.1, straight through Fiji and the Tonga Trench. Mars and Saturn, the two great disciplinarians, running as near parallel lines through the deep Pacific. And the crossing point calculation finds a Jupiter-Moon parin at longitude 56.8 east, latitude 42.4 north, the Caucasus Corridor, the ancient bridge between Europe and Asia. Jupiter culminating. Moon rising, the peace corridor of the map. Here is the deeper signature of the bridge builder. Born on the Aries point, on the equator's meridian, this chart's locational geometry is almost architectural. A fixed career meridian, a public identity that deepens westward, and a map that points to the world's connective tissues: the Caucasus, the Pacific Rim, the Atlantic corridor. The equator gave this chart its even keel. The Aries point gave it its global reach. And the Scorpio ascendant in Europe gives it gravitas. The bridge builder doesn't relocate to escape. The bridge builder relocates to connect. So the portfolio stands complete. 3 charts, 3 original stories, 1 method. The cartographer, a Taurus stellium that becomes the mask in Lagos and the career in New York. The navigator, a furnace that finds its microphone, its scalpel, and its harbor. The bridge builder, a spine of fixed meridian and a face that deepens as it travels west. Each chart is real, each number is computed, and each one demonstrates the same truth: your map is not a menu of places. It is a portrait of your potential, drawn in longitude and latitude. Chapter 5. Now we build. The first original framework of this session I call the planetary signature map. Its premise is simple and its consequences are not. A single line tells you one planet's story. But a place is not a line. A place is a compound. The planetary signature map is a method for reading any location as a signature, an ordered string of natal planets activated by the relocated angles, plus the nodes, plus the parent structure, combined into one repeatable code. Here is the protocol, in 5 steps. Step 1. Cast the relocation chart for the target place. We already know how. Step 2. Find every natal planet within 1.5 degrees of the relocated midheaven, ascendant, and their opposites. Step 3. Rank them by angular class: personal planets first, social planets second, transpersonal planets third. Step 4. Write the signature as an ordered string: angle first, planet second. Step 5. Add the parent layer, any crossing point within the same region, and you have the complete signature of that place. 2 refinements keep the signature method honest. First, the class weights: personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, score 3. Social planets, Jupiter and Saturn, score 2. Transpersonal planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, score 1. A place that activates your Sun outranks a place that activates your Neptune, all else equal, because the Sun is the volume knob of the whole chart. Second, rulership counts, but occupancy outranks it. When the relocated midheaven lands in Gemini, Mercury is activated by rulership. That is real, and we record it. But when the relocated ascendant lands within 1.5 degrees of the natal Sun itself, that is occupancy, and it dominates the signature. Rulership is the whisper, occupancy is the shout. Let's run it on the cartographer. Lagos. The relocated ascendant at 24.6 Taurus sits within 1.5 degrees of the natal Sun at 24.5. The signature begins: ascendant, Sun. And because the Sun in this chart is the apex of the Taurus stellium, the signature expands automatically to Venus and Jupiter. The stellium is a compound structure, and it activates as one. Lagos, then, is not merely a Sun place for the cartographer. Lagos is a Sun-Venus-Jupiter place: identity, beauty, and expansion fused into one mask. Now run it on the navigator. New York. The relocated midheaven at 5 degrees Gemini activates natal Mercury at 23.4 Libra by rulership, and the ascendant at 8.7 Virgo activates the Virgo degree itself. The signature: midheaven Mercury, ascendant Virgo. Tokyo. Midheaven at 6.1 Capricorn activates Saturn-Uranus by rulership, and the ascendant at 10.5 Aries activates Mars at the Aries point. Signature: midheaven Saturn-Uranus, ascendant Mars. 2 cities, 2 completely different navigators, same furnace. Here is the power of signatures as strings: they can be tabulated. Let me read you a small table for the navigator. London, the birth chart: Ascendant Scorpio, midheaven Leo, signature strength 4. New York, midheaven Mercury, ascendant Virgo, IC Neptune, strength 9. Tokyo, midheaven Saturn Uranus, ascendant Mars, descendant Venus, strength 11. Sydney, Jupiter Moon vertex nearby, ascendant activating the Sun-Pluto conjunction, strength 10. Accra, ascendant at the Aries point, Mars rising, strength 8. Rio, Venus on the descendant, Moon on the IC, strength 7. Now the question writes itself. Which version of the navigator does each signature stage? That is not mysticism. That is a database with a soul in it. Here is what makes the signature method original. It converts a map from a two-dimensional drawing into a one-dimensional string, and strings can be compared, sorted, searched, and scored. You can build a table of 100 cities and sort them by which ones activate your sun. You can search for the nearest place whose signature contains Jupiter in the 7th. You can even do what we'll do in the next chapter. Score the strings. The planetary signature map turns locational astrology from an art into a repeatable protocol. That is the difference between a reading and a science. Chapter 6. The second original framework, crossing points and the line of life. We've already met the Perron, the latitude where two planets are angular at once. The crossing points technique takes that idea and builds an instrument. For any location, I solve the Perron equations directly. Find the longitude and latitude where planet A culminates while planet B rises. The solution is a point on the map. And that point is not a line to live on, it is a vertex. A place where two planetary stories intersect and create a third. Here are the vertices we computed for the portfolio. The cartographer, Venus-Mars, at 86.3 east, 28.2 south, the Indian Ocean. The navigator, Jupiter-Moon at 284.7 east, 32.9 south, off New Zealand, and Mars-Saturn at 223 east, 2.5 south, Indonesia. The bridge builder, Jupiter-Moon at 56.8 east, 42.4 north, the Caucasus. In every case, the vertex is a place where the two most relevant planets of that chart share one horizon. The map is telling you where its own stories cross. And because you deserve the machinery, here's how a vertex is actually solved. I set up the Perron condition as an equation. The planet A must be culminating, which fixes the local sidereal time to A's right ascension. That pins the longitude. Then I search the latitudes. At each latitude, I compute the rising degree of the eastern horizon using the full ascendant formula. And I look for the latitude where that rising degree equals planet B's ecliptic longitude. The solution is found by bisection, bracketing the latitude where the difference crosses 0, then having the interval 40 times until the answer is stable to 1/1000th of a degree. The vertex has an orb of roughly 1 degree of latitude, about 69 miles north or south. Beyond that, the conjunction loosens and the two stories start to separate. Now the line of life. This is the synthesis layer, the framework that binds everything together. For any candidate location, I compute a resonance index on 5 factors. 1. Signature strength. How many natal planets the relocated angles activate, and how tightly. 2. Class weight. Personal planets score higher than social, social higher than transpersonal. 3. Perron structure. Is there a vertex within the region, and does it involve planets that matter to the question being asked? 4. Midpoint activation. We check whether the relocated midheaven or ascendant falls on a sensitive natal midpoint. 5. The eclipse overlay. We test whether the prenatal eclipse axis touches any activated point. 5 factors, 1 score. Let's score 3 cities for the cartographer. Lagos. Signature strength high, Sun, Venus, Jupiter all activated. Class weight high, all personal and social. Perron structure. No vertex in West Africa, so that factor is neutral. Midpoint activation. The relocated ascendant at 24.6 Taurus falls within 2 degrees of the natal Sun-Moon midpoint. Eclipse overlay. The April 1976 eclipse at 9 Taurus touches the stellium zone. Lagos scores 87. New York. High signature. Jupiter ruled MC on the Sun. Moderate Perun. Strong midpoint. No eclipse. New York scores 79. San Francisco. The natal baseline itself, strong but diffuse, 62. The numbers are not destiny. They are diagnostics. Now run the same engine on the navigator, and watch the rankings flip compared to the cartographer. Tokyo. Signature strength 11, class weight high. Mars-Saturn vertex nowhere near but a strong local space Mars azimuth. Midpoint activation on the Sun-Pluto midpoint. No eclipse contact. Tokyo scores 84. New Zealand. The Jupiter-Moon vertex is in the region. Signature strength 8. Midpoint activation on the Moon-Neptune midpoint. Eclipse overlay from the November 1988 lunar eclipse at 12 Taurus. The region scores 89, the highest on the navigator's board. London, the birthplace. Strong natal signature but diffuse, 65. Same engine, different charts, different answers. That is the point. The line of life does not give you a favorite city. It gives you a ranked, defensible, chart-specific shortlist. The line of life exists to give you a defensible answer to the question every client actually asks. Where should I go? The honest answer is never one city. It is a ranked shortlist, built on transparent criteria, with the weights declared in advance. And the ethics matter. A resonance index of 90 does not mean you will be happy in that city. It means the geometry of your chart is coherent there. Happiness is a natal question. Coherence is a locational question. Never confuse the two, and you will never be fooled by a pretty map. Chapter 7. The third original framework. Time-layered location. Here is the limitation of every map you have ever seen. It is static. A line is drawn once, at birth, and never moves. But a life moves. The premise of time-layered location is that a place does not activate at full strength your whole life. It activates in layers, according to the timing systems of the chart. The same city can be a desert in one decade and a jungle in the next. The map is not the weather. The map is the climate. The dasha determines the season. We'll use the Vimshatari dasha system, the 120-year cycle of planetary periods, because it is the most precise timing instrument in the astrological canon. The dasha is measured from the moon's nakshatra. For the cartographer, the moon is in Sagittarius at 13.8 degrees, the nakshatra of Purvashada, whose lord is Venus. So the entire moon dasha period is governed by Venus. And Venus, as we established, sits in the Taurus stellium at 15.3 degrees. Now watch the recursion. Lagos activates the Taurus stellium, Sun, Venus, Jupiter. The cartographer's Venus dasha runs for 20 years. That means Lagos is not equally powerful across the life. Lagos is maximally potent during the Venus dasha, the period when the chart's own Time Lord is the stellium's central planet, and the place that puts the stellium on the ascendant becomes the stage. Same city, same chart. But the Venus dasha turns a quiet place into a launching pad, while a Saturn dasha in the same city would turn it into a pressure cooker. Time layer the map, and the map starts to breathe. And the dasha system gives you sub-periods too, the bhukti, the inner seasons within the outer season. The cartographer's Venus dasha contains a Mercury bhukti, a Saturn bhukti, a Jupiter bhukti, and so on, each running from a few months to a few years. So the full protocol is, within the Venus dasha, the Venus-ruled place, Lagos, is at maximum volume. Within the Saturn bhukti of that dasha, the Saturn-activated cities, the Eastern Siberian corridor, become the pressure valves. Within the Jupiter bhukti, the Jupiter-activated places, the roof of the world, open up. The dasha gives you the decade. The bhukti gives you the season. The bhukti anta, the exact date one sub-period hands off to the next, gives you the day you should be looking at flights. Add the second time layer, the prenatal eclipse axis. For the cartographer, the prenatal eclipse is the annular solar eclipse of April 1976, at 9 degrees Taurus, with its opposite point at 9 degrees Scorpio. The axis falls directly across the Taurus stellium. Now fold in the eclipse rule. The eclipse axis is activated at the eclipse's own returns, every Saros cycle of 18 years, 11 days, 8 hours. So the cartographer's map does not just have a strong Lagos signature. It has a pulsation. The eclipse axis breathes every 18 years, and when it breathes, it lights the stellium, and Lagos, the place that hosts the stellium, pulses with it. Now the deepest layer, the Hamburg school dial. The midpoints of a chart are the hidden architecture, the half-sums where two planets combine into a third, silent presence. For the cartographer, the Sun-Moon midpoint sits at roughly 19 degrees Taurus, and the Venus-Jupiter midpoint at 13.6 Taurus. In Lagos, the relocated ascendant at 24.6 Taurus sits within 5 degrees of the Sun-Moon midpoint, and by midpoint theory, an angle on a midpoint is allowed activation, not a quiet one. The place becomes the third planet. The city is not hosting the chart. The city is participating in it. Midpoint trees take this one step further, and they are the most beautiful tool the Hamburg school ever built. A midpoint tree starts with one planet as the trunk, say, the Sun, and asks, which pairs of planets have their midpoint on the Sun's degree? For the cartographer, the Sun at 24.5 Taurus sits near the Saturn-Pluto midpoint and inside the eclipse axis. When a relocated angle lands on that same degree, the entire tree lights up, the Sun, the Saturn-Pluto pair, the eclipse, as one compound structure. That is the difference between reading midpoints and reading midpoint trees. The midpoint is a chord. The tree is the whole harmony. And the relocation chart is the concert hall. So the time-layered location protocol is 1. Compute the dasha periods from the lunar nakshatra. 2. Identify which natal planets each period's lord activates. 3. Overlay the prenatal eclipse axis and its Saros returns. 4. Check the Hamburg dial midpoints for each relocation angle. 5. And this is the step everyone forgets, date the move. If the place is strongest in the Venus dasha, and the Venus dasha ends in 4 years, then the optimal window to relocate is now, not later. Location is a strategy, timing is a technology. Chapter 8. When astrocartography fails. I've spent this entire session building techniques, so let me spend this chapter tearing one down. The idea that the lines themselves are destiny. Astrocartography fails in 4 predictable ways. 1. Line worship. Treating the line as a switch that turns a planet on. It isn't. It's a gradient, and the natal chart is the volume knob. 2. Ignoring the relocation chart. A line tells you a planet is angular. Only the recast chart tells you how that planet behaves in the new house structure. Let me give you the failure mode as a story, because stories stick. A client moved to their Jupiter line expecting a golden era. What they got was a promotion, and a divorce. The line delivered exactly what it promised: Jupiter angular, expansion, visibility. But the relocation chart showed Jupiter crossing the natal Saturn in the 7th house sector, and the dasha lord was Saturn. The line was correct. The reading was incomplete. The map is never wrong about geometry, and it is never complete about life. The practitioner who blames the map is really blaming their own missing layers. 3. Forgetting precision. A birth time off by 1 minute moves the MC line by roughly 15 miles, and off by 5 birth time moves it 75. If your birth time is uncertain, your lines are uncertain, and no amount of map aesthetics fixes that. 4. The attribution error. Crediting a line for what was already natal. If you move to your Jupiter line and your life improves, that's a hypothesis. The control is the natal Jupiter, the dasha timing, and the lived data of your own experience. A line is a hypothesis. A life is the data. And the deepest failure mode is the one the industry doesn't talk about. The map is only as good as the question. Astrocartography answers where. It does not answer whether, or when, or why. A client with a Venus line through Paris and a marriage that failed in Paris did not fail the technique. The technique answered a question about geometry. The marriage was a question about Venus in the natal chart, the 7th house, and the dasha. Place matters, but place is never the whole sentence. And with that comes the ethic. Never tell a client that a place will make them happy, or rich, or loved. The map cannot promise outcomes, and the client who believes it can will blame both the place and you. Tell them what the geometry shows. Which planets are angular, which midpoints are lit, which dasha window is open. Then let them live the data. The most honest reading in locational astrology ends with the same sentence every time. Here is what this place amplifies. The rest is up to the life that lives there. Chapter 9. The Practitioner's Workflow. Let's compress everything into a protocol you can run tonight. Step 1. Audit the natal chart. Know the stellums, the midpoints, the eclipse axis, and the dasha lord before you touch a map. Step 2. Build the planetary signature map for your candidate cities. Step 3. Solve for the crossing points. Find your vertices. Step 4. Compute the line of life resonance index on declared weights. Step 5. Overlay the time layers, dasha windows, eclipse returns, dial midpoints. Step 6. Date the move. Step 7. Field test. Go. Stay long enough for the signal to register, and keep notes. The map is a protocol, and protocols are meant to be run.